Hi guys, good morning for those joining us from Ghana, and good afternoon to those joining us from Nigeria and everywhere else. Welcome to the Block Space event, which is titled Understanding Blockchain. We are going to be taking Algorand as a case study. So, blockchain is a widely misunderstood technology. There are lots of people who have heard it from one person or the other. Some people have heard it from Bitcoin. A lot of people don't even know what the technology is all about. Why even developers who are aware of so many technologies like AI, IoT, they still find it very difficult to know what is going on in the blockchain space. It is with this in mind that we came up with a community called Blockspace, just to demystify the blockchain technology to entrepreneurs, product people, and developers, so that we in Africa here, so that we can leverage this technology to create great products and solve big societal problems. So today we have Blaise with us, Blaise Bayou, who is the CEO of Cesar Cash. Is going to be taking us through understanding blockchain with an emphasis on the Algorand blockchain. So I would hand over to him now. While he's speaking, he's going to be saying some things which might not be clear to us, or we might have questions. We can always drop our questions in the chat section. For those of us on desktop, you see it on the left bottom side of your screen. So you can drop your questions as Blaise speaks. So Blaise, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Femi, for the introduction. I must say I'm happy to be making this presentation to you all, knowing that you're all developers in one way or the other. And I hope that at the end, we're going to learn something new about Algorand and blockchain projects in general. Thank you, everybody, once again. And I'm happy and excited to be sharing the presentation with you at this time, especially on Algorand. I'm going to look at some key blockchain concepts and how they are implemented on the Algorand blockchain. So generally, most of the concepts run through all blockchains in a similar way with minor differences. You know, it's just like you take a PHP framework or a JavaScript framework, and they all come with different styles of implementation. But the bottom line is that they seek to promote a decentralized and permissionless system that allows people to build secure and transparent applications. But I always say that if you want to build on a blockchain project, build a solution on blockchain, there are some key things that one needs to ponder over and think critically about before making your choice. One is what is the speed of transaction? How fast are you able to process transactions? On some chains, it takes close to 30 minutes to one hour, and sometimes 2 hours to validate transaction on the chain. On other blockchains, it takes less than 5 seconds to do so. So, and all these come down to the different styles of implementation of their consensus models. How secure is it against attacks by hackers? So you should also think of that. Of course, there are always attempts to hack blockchain projects, and every day hackers are making attempts to hack your project, your solution that is on a blockchain, or even sometimes attacking the blockchain itself. So take note of this. And also, what is the energy consumption in mining or validating transactions? For some of us who are champions of sustainability or trying to save Mother Earth from so much energy, I'm much more concerned about how much my activities on the blockchain would impact on the environment. So some of us would take issues like this into consideration. And what are the SDKs that are available for easy onboarding? You know, if you want to start developing on a blockchain, That's one of the key areas of adoption. If you have available SDKs on that chain that you can learn, and I think it's something you should also consider. And then how clean and organized are their developer tools? So documentations on GitHub or other repositories or online communities, you should take note of that. Having looked at this, now going to the overview of the presentation, we're going to look at the Algorand overview, the core protocol, some of the key features of the Algorand 2.0, then look at some jargons within blockchain concepts. We'll see betanet, testnet, and then mainnet, what they are, how they are used, and then the APIs, SDKs, and other tools that are available online, and then some of the key Algorand features, looking at the strength that one should be happy that you are building on Algorand. So just in a short, Algorand is a bit old. It was started in January 2018. I'm sure some will say 2018 is just 2 years, but most blockchain projects are in fact younger. Apart from Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are the oldest, most of these ones came later in point. And so 2 years is a longer time for Algorand to have been in the space. They have SDKs in Java, JavaScript, Python, and it is open source, which means anyone can jump on it and build your product on it without needing any special permission. And there has been some significant upgrades on the Algorand chain, and a significant one is the layer 1 smart contract that we are using. But key is some statistics, of course. Blockchain projects are so fixated, or they pride themselves in the number of blocks they have been able to produce. And so Algorand has done 5.4 million. And so for those of us here who may want to be bloggers on blockchain, these are some of the key things you look at. What is the number of transactions they have been able to produce? So how much can they process within a period of time? Algorand has done 5.4 million blocks, over 700 nodes, and then different entities and even countries are launching solutions on the Algorand chain. We are going to look at some of them later. But nodes, let me just briefly touch on it, but I guess everybody understands what a blockchain node is. But for the benefit of the doubt, a node is just a server that runs the Algorand protocol, and then it's able to validate transactions. So you must meet some specifications for your server, and then you hop onto the Algorand system and be registered as a node. And then your server, depending on the location, has the permission to process transactions and blocks, and then you get rewarded. So that's one thing that makes blockchain, like people say, is hacker-proof or tamper-proof or whatever term you want to use, because you have different servers in different locations, all running the same piece of code and validating transactions. So which means that it will practically be hard for somebody to gain access to all these different servers in different countries to alter the transactions on the chain. And also that you have all these different servers validating the same transaction. So if you are the bad guy, then the system would fish you out and then reject your transaction details. So that's what it means. And so these are good things. And the key point, Algorand is that it is suited for building decentralized finance apps, what is popularly called DeFi, towards a borderless economy. But that is not the limitation. You can build almost any type of dApp on the Algorand blockchain. And dApp also means decentralized application. So maybe I'll be using that frequently going forward. So the Algorand core protocol is based on a pure proof of stake consensus. And consensus governance in blockchain projects means how do they agree that this transaction is valid, and then before they push it on the blockchain. So there are different consensus models. And during the last presentation webinar that we attended, the presenter focused on proof of work, which is what Bitcoin uses to mine. So proof of work is all the nodes or servers within the network have to compete to solve the solution. And after that, all of them must come to a consensus and agree that this transaction is valid before it is pushed onto the chain. So sometimes you can have Bitcoin transactions taking more than 10 minutes, 30 minutes, sometimes an hour before the transaction is confirmed. Other blockchain projects are using a different consensus model, and Algorand one is the proof of stake. It is public and permissionless, once again, which means any of us can start developing on the Algorand chain. And now the proof of work consensus is that everybody has the chance to participate in the consensus building, and the blocks are confirmed by voting. So an elected group of people are selected to validate the transaction, and after it is validated, those group of people vote. Once they vote, usually 2/3 of the team has to agree. So you don't need everybody to confirm. Once the 2/3 agree, they then push it onto the chain, and the remaining members would update their database with the transaction that was pushed onto the chain. In the next slide, I'm going to give more details about this. And so it carries every token holder who is on the network and is running nodes have the capability to be selected to vote. And it's a random process that you can be called upon to validate a transaction. So this is how it works. The previous slide I was talking about an elected members. So let's assume that here is all the nodes, the 700 nodes of Algorand that are registered and can validate transactions. And this is already some set of transactions that are on the chain, on the ledger, the distributed ledger. I think last week the presenter explained so much about distributed ledgers, so I wouldn't try to waste or dwell much on it. So these are the distributed ledger transactions on the chain already. Now somebody creates a new transaction. Let's say I transfer 2,000 Ghana cedis to Femi. Now once I initiate the transaction, and it is the transaction is signed on the chain, Algorand would elect these guys from the main set. So this is a subset of community members from this set that is random. So you don't know who is going to be selected actually. So these set of servers or nodes are selected to validate the transaction. They agree that, okay, this transaction was initiated by me, I actually own the asset. The transfer was successfully sent to Femi. Femi has received the account in the money in his account. If I was exchanging the asset, let's say the 2,000 Ghana cedis with Femi for a house that he owns, and the house is also 2,000 Ghana cedis, and the house details are all validated on the blockchain and registered with maybe the Lands Commission of Ghana. Once the money lands on Femi, then Lands Commission will transfer the documents to me. So now once these subset of guys validate this transaction, then they sign it and the transaction is moved onto the chain. Now, once it moves onto the chain, these guys will all pick information from the B5 block that was added and update their databases across. So that is why pure proof of stake protocols are faster. In fact, the transactions can happen in less than 5 seconds. And whilst blockchain, which you need all these guys to build consensus, sometimes takes a longer time to approve transactions. So there are questions people raise about the security that, maybe these guys who are fewer can be compromised, but it doesn't really, and that's because these guys have a stake on the network, and that is what pure proof of stake means. So each of these guys have invested so much on the network. Let's say they've invested 1 million Ghana cedis, some maybe $200,000. I have an interest on the chain. If I, do something bad, I lose my investment as well. And these guys don't know each other really. So there's no need for them to try to build consensus because everybody wants to protect their interest. So you take it like the board meeting where you have different investors on your company's board. They have different interests, right? So none of them will allow maybe another third party to compromise the network. That is what the pure proof of stake consensus people believe. That people who have interest would not harm the network. So now assuming there's a second transaction, one of us initiates another transaction on the chain. What then happens is that you see a new set of members are elected from here, different from the first set. And so these guys are also randomly selected from the main set. They validate the transaction, that's block 6, and then block 6 is added onto the chain. So this is just a key idea about proof of stake consensus models. And there's a new set of blockchain projects that are doing that. You can look at EOS, things like Algorand. You have, I think, some projects like NEO also run the proof of stake consensus models. So we now look at some of the key features of the Algorand blockchain and why it is like a robust platform or a model platform to build your projects on. So first is that the Algorand standard assets. Standard assets are like cryptocurrencies that you can create on the blockchain, and then they are transferable. So you can create fiat currencies, stable currencies, and cryptocurrencies as well, and utility tokens. So I mentioned previously about real estate. So for instance, if our systems were so modernized that our lands commission and property registry would be on the blockchain. So once I own a house or a real estate property and it is verified and put on the chain, what then happens is that somebody with a stable coin of, let's say, $200,000 can buy a house in any location. What it means is that once the transaction is confirmed, that I have $200,000 in my account, the house is $150,000. The ownership is transferred from the housing registry in any country on the blockchain to me, and then the money is transferred to the person. So all the housing ownership, the ownership documents are then registered in my name. I own the house, and the money is transferred to the person. So this is where blockchain is moving to, and some of the possible use cases. And utility tokens, let me highlight on that. So this is important. Okay, anyway, I'll look at these in the next session. So this is like an overview. And the next one is atomic transfers. This is where you can do bulk transfers at a go without having to do a hash time block transaction. And so in the case of SisaCash, we are dealing with fiat atomic transfers. And so we are using a concept like this on our app to be able to allow like bulk transfer of funds to different users, and also creating our fiat currencies on the blockchain as standard assets. So in the case of Algorand, our token, which is yen, and all the Ghana Cedis and NGN USD we are creating on our app and on the blockchain will be standard assets that are transferable, and they have a store of value. Then the last one is the smart contracts. Really, these are the key of almost every blockchain. So it allows a trustless exchange or execution of commands without the need of a third party. So you can, do escrow payments, loan disbursements, and several other use cases using the smart contracts. I'll get into all these in detail. Now we zoom on to the standard assets. Standard assets technology is just a basic way for everybody to tokenize your app, and then you can issue any type of asset on the Algorand blockchain. So tokenization is just, let's say, a way of coming up with loyalty points by creating cryptocurrencies or utility tokens on the blockchain that you use to incentivize your members on the app to be of good behavior or to use your app more regularly. So here again, for instance, in the case of SisaCash, what we've done is that we created a fungible token. It's called YENT, and it's a cryptocurrency in this case. If you do a transaction on SisaCash, we are giving a cashback. Every time you do a transaction, you get a cashback in our token, in our native token, cryptocurrency. And so this is a way of tokenizing the app. So we usually say we are tokenized cross-border payment application. So we are encouraging members to own the app, corporate ownership of the project, right? If I know that the money for every transaction I do on SisaCash, I get rewarded in cashbacks, and the cashback are then used to pay for fees on the app. So if you hold a certain amount of yen, that's our native token, utility token, you can get up to 50% discount on transaction fees on the app. So these are some of the use cases. For instance, we are building a cooperative that I know the more transactions I do, I get more tokens, and that gives me later more discounts on the app. And the tokens also are traded on the exchange. So we have listed some token pairs of our utility token with some other assets that you can exchange. So on Algorand, let me get back, you can do all these things easily on the Algorand blockchain. You can create your own cryptocurrency and use it in your app for different purposes. We can look at loyalty points. You can create all those things on the blockchain and give it to your members. Let's say, for instance, another good example is I am starting a farm, let's say a poultry farm. And then what I say is that if you bring 2,000 Ghana cedis, I'll issue you with 100,000, let's say, your poultry tokens. So we call it PTS, poultry tokens, right? But what happens is that I'll pay you back your money in 2 years' time with interest. That is agreed. But in the meantime, for holding the 50,000 poultry tokens that have been created on the Algorand chain, anytime you buy a crate of egg from the farm, you get 10% discount. This is the essence of using blockchain assets to tokenize your app and incentivize people to be part of the project. Yes, I know I'll get my assets, my investment plus profit in 2 years' time, but I am also entitled to 10% discount for holding this amount of asset. So I can still buy eggs from the farm that I invested. I get 10%. So if the egg maybe the crate of egg was 10 cedis, I get to buy at 8 or 7 cedis. That is a good thing for me, right? I've invested in the farm is growing, and I hold tokens as a community member. And stock exchange can also do that, bonds as well, and other derivatives. So really, the uses of standard assets are limitless, and they also have a store of value. So if you want to build any financial application on the Algorand chain, you would basically be dealing with the standard assets. And these are also, you can transfer across the Algorand chain. And some of them, you can build trading pairs with other assets that you can then trade on exchanges, for instance, and then give your users much more value for being part of your product and your ecosystem. So some of the standard assets I explained before. So in tokenization, we have what is called the token supply. So if you are creating an asset on the Algorand chain, so those who are developers, you need to determine the maximum token supply. There's a minimum and a maximum. So in the case of Sesa Cash, our maximum token supply is 100,000 ENT that we have issued and issued on the chain. So if you are doing that, you need to beware and do your token economics very well. And then once you create that, you then create this token volume on the chain. And then you can also burn the tokens as the creator of the token, which means if the token has been used, you can decide to burn them and then update your community about what you are doing. And you can freeze, remove tokens, or destroy some of the tokens, which I said are circulating on the market. So if anybody is interested, maybe in another session, we can look at token economics and have a detailed session on that if anybody wants to build an app in this way. But so the Algorand standard assets really is something that you should take advantage of. In fact, if you are building most blockchain projects, it would be nice to think of creating a standard asset and using it, but it is not mandatory. You can build a blockchain project using the smart contract and atomic transfers without needing a token. And this is also something that misconception people have about blockchain projects, that it is necessarily cryptocurrency. It is not true. You can build a blockchain project that doesn't involve cryptocurrency, but if in case you need it, like in the case of the standard asset, you have to use this feature, very powerful, and then it is easier to create on the chain. So now I was talking about standard assets and that some nations are building on Algorand blockchain. Yes, just 2 months ago, we had news of Marshall Islands that is building, it's launching its central bank digital currency. Shortcut is CBDC on the Algorand blockchain. This is like welcome news, and it goes to show the power of the blockchain. So the country is launching a central bank digital currency on this chain. So it will first create it as a standard asset. This is why I wanted to demonstrate. So when they create this, the CBDC, it will be an asset on the Algorand blockchain. So this asset then is tradable. It can be transferred and can then give all other benefits to the user. And the Marshall Islands can use it as a bond security to raise more money without depending on their financial reserves. So they can go and issue, like the tokens I was saying, that they'll say if you hold a certain amount of our CBDC, you are entitled to some rewards, maybe on the Marshall Alliance or some discounts you get. Or they can also just easily then make payments to other people in rural areas who have accounts without necessarily having to deal with central banks or people having to travel long distances to withdraw those monies. And it can fit into e-commerce, it can fit into all other payment systems. So once the central bank is hopping into this, these are like good news and also shows how robust the chain is. I think 2 months ago, the Bank of Ghana was mooting the idea of a digital currency. So maybe if I ever have the chance to sit with them, I'll say they should also study Marshall Islands and see what they are doing and think of launching our digital currency on the blockchain instead of maybe doing it off-chain as a centralized system. Next is atomic transfers. So this is one of the ways that we can make like group transactions to different people at the same time. So you don't have to issue the commands one after the other and process the time stamp of when each transaction was executed. you can actually do batch transfers. And in the next case slide, which I'll look at the use cases, it is easy to transfer and making it very simple to process the transaction. And so in detail, some of the use cases of atomic transfers is atomic swapping or bilateral exchange of assets with cryptocurrency or trading digital currency. A classical example, again, is the one I explained about buying a house and with a stable currency of USDT. You just do the swap of the currencies instantly. No need to wait for some time or any time lapse. As long as the transaction is verified, the swap happens. And you can do circular trades. For instance, that if X pays Y, you pay B, and that kind of thing. So your logic or your algorithm will check all these things and just issue the transfers. And we are looking at group payments, which it can also be done. For it, or in the case of a use case I've been thinking of, which we can do on the blockchain. For instance, we all know of the Susu in Ghana. I don't know those in Nigeria how you call it, but in Ghana, Susu is where a group of people would contribute money. Today, give it this month, they give it to one person. The next month, it goes in that cycle, So atomic transfers can be used in that situation. Once your smart contract deducts the money and says that is the turn of user member B, the atomic transfer is executed and all the monies are transferred to that person en masse at the same time, and the person receives the money. You can do multiple payment recipients. And we all know of digital exchanges. This is where they all use the principle of the Algorand atomic transfers. So Binance, if you are trading on Binance, you see that the monies are just being exchanged at the same time. You can imagine all the transfers that go on Binance at the same time. They are, employing the concept of atomic transfers, multi-party transfers, to make that happen without needing an intermediary. So this is another powerful feature of the Algorand blockchain that everyone who is building a chain should be able to take advantage of. And my favorite one, which is the smart contracts. Now, smart contracts, the Algorand smart contract is a layer 1 assembly-like language, which makes it possible to execute commands based on agreed logic. You don't need a third party really to validate the transactions. So they function, but before that, the Algorand smart contract is written on TEAL, or the transaction execution approval language, but you don't need to learn the TEAL. Later we'll look at the SDKs that are available in the ways you can write on this. So no need to learn any new language. You can actually program in your comfort zone and still access the Algorand smart contract. But briefly, smart contracts are like a trustless way to exchange transactions between two parties without needing a third party. So a classical example I always give is the airline industry. We all know that if you can insure your flight against cancellation, trip cancellation, if the flight is canceled, you are entitled to a percentage refund of your money. So let's give an example. I'm on flight number FLW12 to Nigeria, to Abuja. For some reason, I insured the flight, and when I got to the airport, the flight was cancelled. What I have to do is that maybe if it was on a Saturday, I'll wait on Monday, go to file my claims. The insurance company or the flight company, they come to work, they vet my flight, my claims. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days, or even sometimes a week before your refund is issued to you. But with smart contract, we can just simply program this and say that we write a piece of code that monitors flight feed. And these APIs are available globally. So you can have flight feed that lets you know which flights were canceled, on which time, which date, and which airport. All those details are public knowledge with flight data. Now our script is monitoring the flight data. When a flight is canceled, it goes through the system to see which users were on this flight, what discount are they entitled to. So as soon as the flight is canceled, within the next 10 minutes, maybe the smart contract goes through and refunds you your money, because the company would have put the money in an escrow. So let's say the flight company they connect their bank account, their debit card to the smart contract. So it is monitoring the two sides. As soon as the flight is canceled, it picks up the information, validates the transaction on the blockchain, and everything is signed on the blockchain, and the money is paid to the user either through their debit card or cryptocurrency, whatever payment mode that is agreed upon. So simple. Flight is canceled, the next 10 or 20 minutes, I get my refund. No need to wait for longer days, fighting with the companies to get my money. These are ways that blockchain can facilitate, transactions, borderless payments, and making our life easier. And the Algorand chain, for instance, is well suited for that. So, for instance, I have seen how people are exploring this on the Algorand chain, building escrow accounts. So, yeah, you can build a scenario is, for instance, build an escrow account. That also says, for instance, if somebody is able to get 20% of, let me use this example. Must invest in companies, right? And what I know, I don't know if it has changed. During our time, you get the money in tranches based on meeting certain what do you call them, milestones. So if you meet them, then your tranche is like released to you. Okay, what if when must invest in the company, we all agree that our key metrics will be, let's say we are building an app that has recurring payments. We can say that the smart contract is monitoring Stripe payments, and let's say you integrate with, let's say it is a Shopify app, all users that you get on Shopify. When you get to 5,000 users and 20,000 monthly recurring revenue, we will release the second tranche of the funding. As simple as that. So the smart contract that is written is then monitoring and validating payments coming from Stripe. And Stripe, you can give permission to a third party to track this kind of information. So the smart contract is tracking your payment information on Stripe and Shopify. Now, as soon as you reach this milestone and the smart contract knows you've hit this kind of milestone, your tranche is released and the transaction is signed and placed on the blockchain. And so it is verifiable, it's public information. Your user data, your payment data is all validated. And, two parties execute all this, other than where you have to go gather your information, go to meetings with fellows, Ashwin, maybe Femi, and then you have to go and convince them, we've done this. It takes 2 or 3 board meetings. And we all know what happens with maybe verifying such details before your next tranche is released, right? So this is how the application of smart contracts and with escrow payments. So you put the money in an escrow account, it's locked in an asset like USDT, stable coin, and then based on the other party meeting certain conditions, then the payment is released based on a schedule. Or let's say you issue a loan to somebody on the blockchain. You can also use the blockchain for loan payments. Now, and this allows people in the diaspora or like foreigners to even invest in your company. Blockchain companies are looking, investors are looking for this. You build a loan system that says you bring your Bitcoin asset, and then we give you a loan in fiat. Fiat is the traditional currency like Ghana cedis or Naira. Okay, so I have 2,000 worth of Bitcoin. I don't want to spend it because I don't know the way Bitcoin is going to behave in the next 2 or 3 months. However, I need some money to do, settle some problems in my life. So I can use that asset as a collateral on the blockchain, take a loan in Ghana cedis, right? Now the algorithm, the smart contract is the Algorand smart contract can be written such that once I start making the payments, let's say I pay back 500 cedis, the smart contract will release, let's say 20% of my Bitcoin that is deposited in an escrow to me. So as I pay, I'm getting my collateral back in bits. As soon as I finish paying, my entire collateral, I finish paying plus the interest, my collateral is released back into my account on the blockchain in full. So these are the ways, in fact, you can explore blockchain smart contracts to build applications. You can also do subscription payments and collateralized obligations. Another example, for instance, is globally, we pay people at the end of the month or every 2 weeks in the case of the US. What if we can pay people hourly or at the end of the day? I work at the end of the day, I should be paid, right? So the MEST stipends, instead of waiting to do it at the end of the month, MEST would put the money maybe in an escrow or something. Every day after you work, you come to school, they maybe a register or something is roll call, they know you came around, you sign something. Immediately, your daily wage is released to you on the blockchain. So let's say somebody even wants to pay it in cryptocurrency, right? Why should we force everybody to be paid in fiat? So maybe I want blockchain payments. The mess will get some Bitcoin and deposit it, or USDT. Anytime at the end of the day, they verify that an EIT has come to school, participated in school work, has done the assignments or something, they get their daily pay in that order. Or it can be broken down to hourly. So every hour that you work and is verified through any medium you agree, then your payments is sent. Instead of us having to wait at the end of the month, somebody has to process all these things. You know, it's a new normal that is coming up, especially on the blockchain. People are asking, why can't I be paid for the hour that I worked? Why do I have to wait 2 or 3 days? When I probably that money within the 2-3 days that I'll get it could, help me solve some problem, or I could invest it in something else because it's, my working time and I need to enjoy that. I don't have to wait, 2 months or 3 months. But these are some, examples of smart contract applications that we should think about as, we want to build on blockchain, especially the Algorand blockchain. So some of the use cases on Algorand, and use cases are projects that for those who probably don't understand. And you see there are like varied forms of projects that have been deployed on the Algorand blockchain. And my key one, I'll use Planet Watch as an example because I signed up to them as a beta user, and I really want to test their app. So what Planet Watch does is that they are measuring air quality globally. And measuring air quality is expensive because you need to have maybe weather stations, in all the cities globally to do this. And also sometimes they go into centralized database. How do you trust this, right? So a group of guys are solving this by deploying air sensors that individuals sign up for. So I signed up as a user in Accra. They'll send me an air sensor, which I will keep in my room or I'll walk around with. As I walk around, the sensor will take air quality in Accra at some random intervals and report that on the blockchain. So imagine they have 1 million users all working with the sensors globally. Then they're able to track in different cities. No need to invest so much in an expensive weather station to track this. So these are some of the ways they're used in blockchain. And how they are doing it is that now for having the air sensor and getting data to the blockchain, I am being rewarded in their utility tokens, which is a standard asset. So previously I explained about standard assets. So they have created a token. They have tokenized this system. Let me use this way, and they reward users in that token for holding the device and measuring the air quality. Because of course the device will need to take maybe some form of data from my Wi-Fi or my phone to send onto the blockchain. Now, the benefit for me is that I am being rewarded in tokens, and that tokens I can exchange or sell on, I can trade on the blockchain or other exchanges, and then convert it to maybe any other currency that I want, fiat, and then spend it, right? So this is a way that tokenization works, and Planet Watch is doing this. They are already getting data from different cities across the world, and really is a very cheap way to do this. The device doesn't cost much, but then you get it walking around, you're contributing to measuring air quality in the world, and you own some tokens in the ecosystem, So this is just an example of use cases, what people are doing on the blockchain, and what we can also think of as we get into building our applications. Now, going back to a bit technical about beta net, testnet, and mainnet. Now, how I would explain this is that beta net, we should see it as our local host, that where we test things that are not really on the internet, or our local servers that we have. And so that is how we will look at beta nets. And then test nets really are a mirror of the main blockchain. So from the beta net, there are features that are not tested. It's only for developers who want to test their skills for upcoming features. But any feature that moves to testnet really is live and is the same as what you see in the mainnet. But a testnet just exists for you to test, build your standard assets, faucets, everything, and seeing how it's going to work on the mainnet. Once you are happy with what is happening on the testnet, you just push onto the mainnet, and it's the same piece of code and standard, really. Whatever you have on the testnet, node that is running the code on the testnet is the same thing that is on the mainnet. So in the case of Sisa Cash, for instance, we were building on the testnet for almost 2 to 3 hours, 3 months, I should say. And then once we finished, we then pushed onto the mainnet. And you always see most blockchains say that we are moving onto the mainnet, going onto the mainnet. It's only when you go onto the mainnet also that your tokens become live and tradable. So a blockchain project can run on the testnet and have test tokens. Those tokens or currencies have no value, right? But as soon as they launch on the mainnet, then there's a store of value. They are tradable, and people can buy and use it in live cases. So this is just what some of the processes you would go through. You don't really need a beta net. This is for those involved in the core protocol development. You would, if you are building on the Algorand chain, you would start from the testnet, testing your application, having the mirror of this guy here. Once you're happy with what you have on the testnet, you push onto the mainnet, and your code is live on the blockchain. So this is just how the architecture or the flow chart, if you want to start development on the Algorand blockchain. But the beta net is cool with Algorand. For some other blockchain, I really don't see that. The beta net is where like an idea or a feature that is still in beta development. Some people really want to have access to it. I've seen, some nets or who want to, test everything even at the infancy stage. And this is where beta net comes. But if you're like me, who just wants to, you don't want trouble, then I'll start from here, build my app, be satisfied with what is going on before I push onto mainnet. But you can always start here, follow the feature, move on to the testnet, and then you come here. There's no harm in trying that. But if you are really good, like you are super good with the blockchain, you don't need a testnet. You can actually be writing your code on the mainnet, but that is up to you. So, but really the best practice is to start here before coming to the mainnet. Then some things too about blockchain. The Algorand has an explorer, and almost every blockchain has an explorer. Explorers are more like a browser for that blockchain, where you can search and get every information about a blockchain address, a transaction ID, or whatever you need to know about transactions happening on the blockchain. And as I explained previously, we see mainnet, testnet, and betanet. You can search on the mainnet or search on the testnet. So if I am writing my test code and my native utility token, like the poultry tokens I mentioned, is written on the testnet, if you search on the mainnet, you won't find transactions about that token unless you come to search on the testnet, right? So those are some of the things you just need to know if you want to troubleshoot your Algorand development and see if your transactions are going live on the testnet or the mainnet or the betanet. It's a matter of choice and searching through the Explorer. Now we are getting to the tail end of the presentation, and we look at some of the developer tools. So for Algorand, we have a chunk of developer tools and SDKs that you can use, and actually most of them are in your favorite languages. So there's one for JavaScript, Java itself, C#, and then Python as well. So I mean, this gives developers the variety to choose which one they want to develop on. And if you want to write the Algorand smart contract, I was talking about TEAL, which is the transaction execution language. Now, the Algorand team has done a wrap around it, which is called PyTeal. So Python, wrapped around TEAL. So you don't really need to write the TEAL commands. If you can program in Python, you can start, writing the Algorand smart contract. There are other SDKs or libraries in, I think, C# and JavaScript as well. So there you have options to go with if you want to develop on Algorand. So yes, for maybe the next sessions or those who are interested, you can start looking at some of these libraries and SDKs. And I think some people here have already set up SDKs on Algorand and have been able to create assets on the testnet, which is a good thing. We should, take advantage of it and build on Algorand, which basically suited for building finance and decentralized applications. Yeah, I mentioned about the SDK. Okay, yeah, it is. There is a C# SDK, and mostly for anybody who wants to use it. Yeah, the developer tools is there at algorand.org. It's well organized, and we are all contributing. Part of the community have also sent in some piece of code and tutorials and lessons on some programming that I've been doing with somebody. So if you are a developer, you can also contribute to the tools and you get rewarded or recognized by the community. So everybody's welcome to start building on Algorand. So, but before I conclude, recently Algorand has launched a grant program for dApps or developers that want to build dApps on the Algorand chain. So if anyone here is interested to build a decentralized app on the Algorand chain, this is the time to do so. I think it's always said that you strike the iron while it is hot. The fund was launched just, I think, last month. It's not up to not more than a month, and so there's still there's a good window of opportunity for us here to build good use cases and then apply for it. I don't know if MEST is open to blockchain projects. That I don't know, but if you can, verify or confirm with the senior faculty, and it is allowed to do so, yes, you should think of building on Algorand. And as I mentioned, don't ever confuse blockchain with cryptocurrency. Those will be some of my concluding remarks, that you can build an entirely robust blockchain application without any cryptocurrency. So you wouldn't go against any regulatory hurdles or anything. So keep that in mind, and don't try to say, maybe governments are against cryptocurrency, and so you get to stop. No. Even on Sisa Cash, we could operate without the cryptocurrency, and we'll still be on the blockchain. Because we bring our smart contract and all the assets are signed and verified on the blockchain. The cryptocurrency is just a way to build a community, but we don't need it, right? We could remove it and still be on the blockchain and enjoy all the security, the transparency, the cross-border nature, and the easy way to transfer and exchange assets. So you can actually do that, or you can even make it people invest without cryptocurrency. Somebody brings you, for USDT, is more like a stable currency. They bring you USDT, they invest in maybe a project, and then as the project makes advances, they get payments back. There are different ways to do loan applications that can bring, external investment from the blockchain community without necessarily going through the traditional cryptocurrency, model. So don't get scared if you want to build on Algorand blockchain. You can do that using the atomic transfers and the smart contract. If you don't want to create a standard asset, that is fine. But if you still want to create a cryptocurrency or any form of asset on the blockchain, it is allowed. Or even verifying everything can be done as an asset, but cryptocurrency is not the only thing on blockchain. So you can create other standard assets that are not cryptocurrencies, and that gives you legitimacy. So don't get intimidated by the security that people say regulators, are so much worried about blockchain. I think there are many more use cases or ways you can build on blockchain and enjoy the benefits without employing cryptocurrency, which means regulations don't have to come after you. Regulators don't have to come after you, right? So let's just keep that in mind. I'll say cryptocurrency is like maybe 10% or 20% of the blockchain. And also don't confuse cryptocurrency with cryptography. So the blockchain ecosystem is based on cryptography. That's encryption that is used. But so it's just like cryptocurrency on a cryptographic network. That's where the cryptocurrency came from. But there are many more uses to blockchain than cryptocurrency. So I just wanted to also bring that forward. You can sign up as a developer, start going, and then let's build together. Let's look at use cases that can be built on the chain. If anybody wants to build a project and then access the funds, let's work together, and then we can make introductions to people in the community, apply, and then see what comes up out of it. But what I will say is that build a project that even if you don't get a grant or there's no support, you can still run on your own. So that is a rule of thumb. But then that might be an additional benefit you get by building on the blockchain network, because they want to support projects on their ecosystem. Yes, so as I said, this was an introductory session on the Algorand chain. If there are any questions, I will then take them at this time.
Thank you, Blaise. I think we have some questions. Dr. Sanjeev Dhawan asks that, could you please elaborate more about collateralized obligations in details?
What again? What is that?
Please elaborate more about collateralized
Yes.
obligations.
So collateralized obligation is where an asset is backed by a pool of resources. So let's say, for instance, and this is mostly happens on stable coins, and most stable coins are backed by collateralized obligations or assets. So individuals come up and like put in a pool of reserve to back or collateralize an asset, and that gives that asset a stabilized performance against other currencies. So if you look at USDT, or let's say the Bank of Ghana is creating a central bank digital currency, it can become a collateralized obligation on the Bank of Ghana. So the Bank of Ghana would commit, let's say, 20 million Ghana cedis or dollars to back this currency. What it then means is that individuals are assured of a reserve, a collateral that is supporting it. And you can look at it like the gold standard, or the system where we had gold reserves that were also backing the financial system at some point in time. And even today, some banks still do that. They keep gold in their reserve to, in a way, back certain currencies. So I think in a way that's how I would explain it. The individuals who have created that asset have an obligation and put in some collateral to back the transaction that is ongoing.
Okay, so can I also ask a question?
Okay.
What will make someone choose Algorand over another smart contract blockchain like Ethereum?
Good. So the Ethereum smart contract, for instance, for it, one, you have to look at the consensus models, right? Ethereum smart contract is also based on the asset exchange and transactions, but the blockchain layer one smart contract comes with, like the performance as well, that it can process and write transactions within a few, seconds, and also that they have built the consensus model, as I said, using the proof of stake, making it a bit also faster and able to execute the transactions and sign them on the blockchain. But Ethereum smart contract, of course, based on a different consensus model, but as I said, you look at the smart contract not in isolation, but what other things you can do with the smart contract. So you should be thinking of also the standard assets, the atomic transfers features of Algorand, and then comparing that with Ethereum as well. So I would say if you are building on Algorand, you look at the smart contract, which is good, of course, but then don't look at that in isolation. We need to also consider the other standard features of the blockchain that you should take into account.
A follow-up question. So how is it difficult for exchanges to kind of onboard dApps from Algorand? It's sometimes easy for them, some will even list you for free if your project is on Ethereum.
Yes.
But let's look at how it looks like on Algorand.
Okay, so if you want to look at the exchanges on how they can list dApps on Algorand, I see what you're saying. So that's if they have, are you talking if they have a cryptocurrency? Because if you don't have a cryptocurrency, you really don't need to list on an exchange.
Oh, so I can build a crypto dApp on Algorand except another blockchain project. That's what you mean?
No, you said how difficult it is for exchanges to accept me. And what I'm saying is
accept Algorand per se. But if I build a dApp on Algorand, and it's a crypto, or it basically means a utility token, or
Yes.
SEO or something. How difficult is it for exchanges to onboard it compared to Ethereum?
Yes, good. So in that case, for Ethereum is widely traded. That I won't dispute that. So if you are doing on Ethereum, if it is an Ethereum dApp, you can have some exchanges that are, would accept you more. Ethereum has wider acceptability. But what you should know, Algorand was also based on the Ethereum, I think partly out of the Ethereum network. And so the Algo network of tokens really are compatible with most of the Ethereum-based networks. So that you wouldn't have much of a problem getting on all these exchanges. But the way I see Algorand also is that since the product launched, they have had so much, they have several tokens that are on the Algorand network, and they have been accepted on other exchanges. But what I'll say is that most exchanges accept crypto projects based on the popularity and really not on the chain that it is on. So if you build a project that is good, you can always find a way to build a pair, a trading pair. So exchanges are just based on trading pairs, right? So depending on the exchange that you are in, and they can get a good trading pair for you. If you really have a good hype, Binance can build that integration and create a trading pair for you, maybe a Bitcoin, your token pair, and then it will be traded. For exchanges, really, they don't want, in quotes, shitty tokens on their system. But once your token has value and you can convince them that you are going to provide much value, they are going to list you. So exchanges don't have much problem. Oh, not getting input from my side.
I get it, but some of these exchanges, I don't know, if they find it easier to onboard projects from Ethereum, because then it looks like they don't have to, their developers don't have to do so much work because they have that system in place. That is my problem. I find with exchanges, I would love to build on a lot of, it's like people hate change. They all know ETH, but there are a lot of solid smart contract platform out there like Algorand. I love it. There's one called HRC from the Otage blockchain, for instance. It's a hybrid between Ethereum and Bitcoin. These are all solid smart contract projects out there that you can build unique projects on it. But you find out that you have to pay a lot of money to exchanges to kind of get them list you, because then they claim they have to, deploy a chain that is in consonance with the smart contract you build the project on. Other than that, I think that is a little barrier to, it's all about money, the budget you have building a project. If the money is there, you can use any solid smart contract platform like Algorand and go out there and get it listed everywhere. But this is crypto for you, a whole lot of stuff. Sometimes I think we have some way to go, or a long way to go, if I can put it that way.
Yes, truly, I agree. And as I said, that cryptocurrency is market demand. If your token has value, or you can pay so much, also on some of the exchanges, they would integrate with you. So what the point I was making is that it's about what features within the ecosystem that you can use to make your project or your token value worth the while. For blockchain projects, yes, Ethereum, I can agree with you on Ethereum, because that was the, after Bitcoin, almost the next popular blockchain project that existed. So you have most of these other projects coming out of Ethereum. But Algorand is an ERC2 blockchain. It came out of the Ethereum family. I was trying to explain that. So it will not also make it difficult to be on the exchanges. But as I said, my experience also is that as a young dApp that is coming up, your objective really is not to be on exchanges that are the big exchanges from the onset. What I've come to see is that you build value first. Over time, your token has value, and then you can approach the exchanges, or some even approach you. For instance, recently Binance was just running a challenge which says that tell me why I should list a particular token on Binance. And it was a Twitter challenge. So based on the trade and how much buzz you can create, your token will be listed on Binance. So here, the consideration wasn't about a network or about which blockchain you built on. What we are seeing now is that we are now seeing a cryptocurrency economy where listing on exchanges has become a whole new economy, as you said. If you have money, you can be listed. If you don't have money, then you need to build value with time and then work your way into most of these projects. So chain is not really a barrier. If your token has value and the exchange wants to list you or you have money to list, it can be done. On Sister Cash, for instance, we've had marketers from different exchanges approach us that we should list on their exchange, and then some of them, as you said, also come with fees and how much we need to pay and the likes. It's become a business model for them, really, because the blockchain we are built on is EOS, is Telos and then EOS, which is, if they have EOS on the chain, they can easily have us, yet they're asking us to pay so much. And so my emphasis for here will be that don't let cryptocurrency be the focus, which was why I said that in my conclusion. Look at the use case you are going to have. Build a solid product that probably doesn't even involve cryptocurrency. Even if it involves crypto, over time, let your crypto have the needed demand. Build a use case, and then the exchanges will come after you, or you can approach them and have your token listed. I think that's what I'll say.
Okay, yeah. I think Dr. Sanjeev wants to speak.
Okay.
So please go ahead, sir. Okay.
I think he's the one that spoke.
Okay, he may not be the one. You have a question. Okay, let me read out. If he can, then I'll read out his question so that it gets answered. Okay, so his question is, could you please tell me the possible limitations of using Algorand?
Yes, so build on Algorand, the limitations I would see for the project is the time, yeah, I think that you're going to ask is how soon they have come into the ecosystem, and also that they need to gain visibility. And Algorand is a registered entity. So with the blockchain projects, we have those that are community projects and those that are run by registered entities. So Algorand really has gone through all the legal processes. So if you are building on it, you should be aware of that. You are bound by sometimes several other legal terms that you may not be aware of. So if maybe you want to build on the chain, you should also read much more about those things and how either they can limit you in doing certain things on the Algorand blockchain. But apart from that, don't see much more limitations. For some other blockchains, they are community-based, and so they are not bound by all these legal restrictions that Algorand has. So if you look at projects like, I think, EOS, Telos, and some other networks, I think Ethereum, they are community-based and are not bound by this. But Algorand really has gone through all the legal registrations, and so more often they are, you should be cautious and read well before going over to do things like this.
Okay. And another question from Yusuf was that I think he wants to ask, how much do we need to stake to build a dApp on Algorand?
So you don't need to, you just need to set up a node. So if you set up a node and you stake, you then have the option to be called upon to process or to validate transaction. It is a random process, but you need to stake some good amount. Maybe if you even stake $1,000, maybe, but I'm not sure about that. But what you need is the first is to set up the node, so you can validate transactions or be among the people who are elected at any point in time.
Okay, Blaise, I'll take the question again. Yusuf wants to know if he needs to stake tokens before he starts building a dApp? Do I have to
Oh,
before I
no,
start
no,
building?
no, no. Okay, no, you don't need to stake tokens before you build it up. I thought you meant validation. No, like running as in, you don't need to stake tokens.
So you can build your dApp without staking. You only start staking if you want to join the validation group, right?
Yes, but about the staking tokens are usually very small. So in the case of Telos, for instance, you just need to stake about $10, and that takes you for a year. So for most blockchain projects, don't worry, you don't need to stake to start developing. Even if you need to stake, it's a very small amount to run your project.
Okay, thank you. So if someone had a question they didn't put in the chat, we'll give room for, we have like
Sure.
2 minutes.
Okay.
So if someone had a question they didn't put in the chat, they can go ahead and ask in the 2 minutes we have.
What kind of support do you get from the Algorand community when you intend to build on Algorand?
Great. I mentioned that. So if you want to build on Algorand chain, there's a community that would guide you through the development. Very supportive, and there are tools that you can use to start the development. But as I said, once you develop up to a stage, you can even get financial support, grants to continue building your project. So I would say for most blockchain projects, Algorand really is very supportive of developers. So yeah, a lot of support coming from all angles, both financial and then technical.
Okay, 1 more minute to go.
Okay, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me, please? Okay. Like, I'm a JavaScript developer, but I've not developed on a blockchain once. So, like me, where can I start from?
So fortunately, there's a JavaScript SDK or library, if you want to call it, for Algorand. So you just need to get that library, set it up, and then you can start writing.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so time's up, everyone. What we'd like to do is, so Blaise, you can.
Yeah, so I wanted to say if anybody wants to, like, have an idea of how Algorand works, I think there's an Algorand wallet. You can download it, send me your username, and then you get some algo tokens. Just a little token from that.
So how do we get access to this wallet, you say?
You just download it. I think if Play Store or something. It's called Algorand Wallet. That's it.
Okay, and what are we going to send you to get the tokens?
Once you create it, you set up a username. Send me your username or your Algorand address. So there are two types on blockchain. Most blockchain projects will give you an address, which is usually a long string of alphanumerics, but you can also build custom usernames and use that. So for instance, on Cash, we don't use the blockchain keys that are usually long. We've created an internal username that we have, and then you can use that to send payments to other users within your system. And I think Algorand has also done that. So once you create, let's say your username is Yusuf1, just send Yusuf1 to me on the chain, and then I'll send it to you.
Okay, Yusuf.
Okay, in the absence of further questions, I think we would need to call it a day. Thank you guys for coming and for waiting this long. Really appreciate you. We look forward to having you for the June event. Thank you and goodbye.